poor girl lost her skirt on a stranger's bike, not knowing he was the new Millionaire CEO. Before we start the story, leave a comment below telling us what city you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. If I run for 10 more minutes, maybe I won't be that late. Emily Parker muttered, adjusting her skirt as the wind kept trying to blow it up. She was running down the avenue, not very gracefully, heading to the company where she worked as an administrative assistant. No car, no bike, and the bus. Well, the bus had passed 30 seconds before she turned the corner. To make things worse, today was the big day. The new CEO would be introduced. Rumor had it he was young, rich, and mysterious. He had taken over after a surprise merger. No one knew what he looked like, just that he came from a wealthy family and studied at Harvard. Just a few steps from the crosswalk, while mentally repeating, "Don't trip, don't trip," she heard a noise from the side and a whoosh of wind. She looked over, and then everything happened at once. A bicycle came out of nowhere. The cyclist looked like he stepped straight out of a magazine. Dark blue suit, headphones in his ears. The contrast was almost funny. Tall, classy, with the kind of casual look you'd see in a cologne ad. He must have been in a hurry too, because he was flying past. "Watch out!" Emily tried to shout, but it was too late. The bike got way too close. One of the pedals snagged the edge of her skirt, yanking the fabric hard. She felt the sudden breeze on her legs and the unmistakable sound of ripping. "What? Are you crazy, you pervert?" Emily shouted, using her bag to cover herself as she ran toward him, her face completely red. Ryan hit the brakes, turned around, and saw her skirt caught on the bike chain like a white flag. He stared at the girl in her button-up shirt, bare legs, eyes wide open in shock. "I'm so sorry, I swear it was an accident." He dropped the bike and ran toward her holding the skirt. "Are you nuts? Some kind of two-wheeled creep?" "What? No, you're the one who stepped into my way. I was walking on the sidewalk, and I was dodging a killer poodle. You ripped off my skirt." "Blame the skirt. Why wear something so snag-prone?" "Snag-prone? Are you just making up words now?" "It's an offensively aerodynamic skirt." Now they were face to face. She stood there in just a long shirt, trying to keep what little dignity she had left. He stood there holding the skirt like a surrender flag. "Give me that." She yanked the fabric from his hand. Furious. "Really, I'm sorry. Can I help somehow? You've helped enough." "What's next? Gonna rip off the rest of my clothes?" "Look, I was just trying to get to work." "So was I. And guess what? Now I'll show up looking like I crawled out of a tornado." "Hey, want a ride?" He pointed to the bike. "If you bring that bike near me again, I'll throw coffee on your suit." Ryan raised his hands, laughing despite himself. Okay. It was an unfortunate accident with a funny twist." She glared at him. He winked. She sighed, turned around, pulled 2 bobby pins from her bag, and did her best to twist and pin the skirt back in place. "Get out of here, apocalypse cyclist." Ryan got on his bike and started pedaling. About 10 meters away, he called back. "Sorry, I took your skirt, but nice legs." He laughed out loud. She raised her finger at him, the index one, because she still had manners. With her skirt badly pinned together, she turned and walked away, holding on to whatever pride she had left. "This has to be a cosmic prank. First the bus skips me, then Tarzan on a bike, and now I'm holding my clothes together with bobby pins. Great, Emily. Just great." Far ahead, Ryan kept looking back, still laughing. "She's intense, but she's not going to forget me anytime soon." The company auditorium was packed. Screens on, projectors ready, little coffees being served on plastic trays pretending to be fancy. Everyone whispered, wondering who the new CEO was. "They say he's young," one receptionist whispered, "and super rich. Like, private jet and an elevator in the bedroom rich," another added. "But no one's seen a photo, not even on LinkedIn. He's like a ghost CEO." Meanwhile, Emily Parker was walking down the hallway like she'd just survived a zombie attack. Her skirt was still pinned with 2 bobby pins, and with each step, she could feel the fabric threatening to fall. She skipped the coffee table, ignored the stares and whispers, and found a seat in the back row, trying to disappear. "Emily," whispered Claire, her coworker. "What happened to your clothes?" "Long story. It involves a bicycle and a mentally unstable guy," she replied, adjusting her skirt for the 10th time. "That sounds awful. Was it a robbery?" "Worse, it was a fashion accident. I'll tell you later." Claire just blinked, confused, while Emily turned her focus to the stage in front of them. An HR executive stepped up to the microphone with the energy of an awards show host. Good morning, everyone. Today is a special day for our company. As you know, our new CEO is here. He's taking over starting today, and I can assure you he's a true change maker. Emily rolled her eyes. Here come the arrogant guys in suits. The presenter went on. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ryan Cooper. Emily's heart stopped, literally. A second of complete silence. Her feet froze, eyes wide. No. Slowly, she stood up a bit to get a better look, and there he was. The creepy cyclist, the skirt yanker, the man who ruined her dignity that morning. Walking calmly up to the stage, smiling in a perfect suit. Same face, same carefully messy hair. He held the microphone like he was born to do it. Emily took a step back, stumbled on her heel and shouted without thinking, "You!" Ryan turned, and their eyes met. His smile widened a little. She was speechless. Claire grabbed her arm. "What was that? Do you know him?" "He pulled off my skirt." Total silence. Someone coughed up front. Ryan coughed too, like he was trying to play it off. Well, I guess that was quite the unique introduction," he said, looking at Emily for a moment before turning back to the audience. As some of you might know or may have just found out, it's been an interesting morning. But I want to say I'm excited about this new challenge, and especially about the chance to work with such an expressive team. The room let out a polite laugh. Emily slowly sat down, wishing she could melt into the carpet. For the next few minutes, she couldn't even hear what he was saying. All she saw was the scene from earlier playing in her head. The skirt flying, the bike screeching, him holding the fabric and saying, "Your legs are beautiful." And now he was her boss. Of course, obviously. The universe hated her. When the speech ended, Ryan came down from the stage calmly, greeted the directors, and walked down the center aisle like a celebrity on the red carpet. Emily tried to hide behind an intern's head, but it was too late. He passed by, tilted his face slightly, and whispered, "Careful not to lose your skirt." She clenched her teeth. "You're going to pay for this, cyclist turned CEO." "I'm looking forward to it," he said with a half smile as he walked on. Claire looked at her, wide-eyed. "What was that, Emily? What do you mean he pulled off your skirt?" "Literally pulled it off. It was like a wild fashion show gone wrong. I want to disappear. And he's really handsome." "Shut up." "No, really, I think I'm falling for him. I think he's a magazine cover psychopath." "That's kind of hot too." "Claire, okay, but are you really going to keep working here? With him staring at you like that?" Emily sighed. Her skirt was starting to come apart again. She got up and quietly left the auditorium, holding the fabric with both hands. But before she could leave, she heard one last line. "By the way," said the HR executive at the mic, "the new CEO will have a personal assistant. We'll announce who it is later today." Emily froze at the door. No, not me, I'm not." Then she felt a chill, a very bad feeling. "You wouldn't, would you?" Outside, Ryan was talking to someone from HR, typing on his phone. On the screen, he wrote, "About my assistant, I've already chosen." Emily was pacing in the HR hallway, her skirt still half-pinned and her head spinning. What started as a regular morning had turned into a nightmare in several chapters. First, the bicycle accident. Then, the public humiliation in the auditorium. Now the cherry on top. Someone from HR had just invited her to a private meeting with the new CEO. She walked into the room with frayed nerves but kept her posture. She held her head high, chest out, and knocked on the door. "Come in," said the voice inside. She opened the door. There he was, Ryan Cooper, sitting in a swivel chair holding a coffee cup, as if nothing had happened. "Seriously? You call me in here and pretend everything's normal?" "Hello, Emily. Have a seat," he said, pointing to the chair in front of his desk, wearing that same smug smile. "I'd rather stand. I've been sitting since you ripped my skirt off. I need time to recover emotionally." Ryan raised his eyebrows, resting his elbow on the table. "Nice to see we're starting off with maturity." "Maturity? You ran me over with a corporate bike and now you want to talk about maturity? Technically, you stepped into my path. Technically, you have issues. And technically, you just got promoted." Emily blinked. Twice. "You heard me. I've decided you're going to be my new personal assistant, starting today." The silence in the room lasted exactly 3 seconds before it broke. "Are you kidding me? I don't joke about promotions. That could lead to lawsuits." After what you did to me this morning, the least you could do is let me work 5 miles away from you. But you're organized, direct, you speak your mind, have good reflexes. He pointed at the coffee she was still holding and clearly handle tough situations well. You're perfect for the job. This is punishment, not a promotion. Are you trying to torture me? Just a little, he said with a smile. Listen here, Ryan Cooper, or whatever your superhero in a suit name is. I'm not taking this job. Forget it. He crossed his arms and leaned forward. Of course, you can refuse. But then you stay at the shared desk, next to that printer that yells paper jam all day. And no raise. Emily hesitated. She thought about her bills, her rent, the printer, Supervisor Linda's constant complaints. This is emotional and professional blackmail. Welcome to corporate life. She crossed her arms. Fine, I'll take it. But just so you know, I'm going to make your life very difficult. Great, I love a challenge, and you're going to regret it. I already regret riding my bike to work this morning, but here we are. Emily took a deep breath. She was now officially tied into an emotional contract with a cycling CEO who, for some reason, thought all of this was funny. And what about the dress code? She asked. Because the skirt you tore is beyond repair. I already ordered new clothes for you. Stronger fabrics. Gear-resistant. She gave him a deadly stare. He faked surprise. Just kidding. But seriously, you'll get whatever you need. Good, because if another piece of my clothing gets ruined because of you, I'm suing for emotional, material, and textile damages. Just give me one chance to make it up to you. Let's work together for a week. If at the end you still want out, I'll let you go. No strings attached. Emily looked at him, evaluating. She loved a challenge, but this one felt personal. 1 week. And if you pull on any part of my clothing again, I'll tie your tie to the bike wheel. Deal. She turned to leave, but before she reached the door, she heard. Emily? What now? Want my shoes too? Just wanted to say, it's nice to see you again in a less traumatic way. She stopped, slowly turned back with a smile. It's still traumatic. The setting just changed, and she left, slamming the door with slight satisfaction. In the next room, Claire was waiting, jaw dropped. Emily, did you talk to him? I did, and I'm his new personal assistant. You what? Yep. Apparently I got promoted for passive aggression and clothing endurance. That's wonderful. It's a trap with the beginning of a romance. Don't start, Claire. Just don't. Emily went back to her temporary desk and began packing her things. She knew the days ahead would be intense, full of teasing, challenges, and probably more embarrassing moments. But one thing was certain. She wasn't going down without a fight. And Ryan Cooper better be ready, because if he thought he was good at games, he hadn't seen Emily Parker in competitive mode. First day as the CEO's assistant, Emily showed up right at 8 a.m., wearing a new skirt, no safety pins this time, a crisp blouse, and a folder full of courage and emotional resilience. She had made herself some serious promises. Don't lose her temper, don't break anything, and most importantly, don't be affected by the cyclist boss's smile. Good morning, she said, walking into Ryan's office. He was standing, spinning a globe on his desk with his finger. You know the best thing about a globe? He asked, not looking at her. It doesn't try to rip people's skirts off? Ryan laughed. Emily placed the folder on the desk and waited for the day's instructions. All right, Emily. Today we'll review contracts with our international partners, align the performance reports, and dodge runaway bicycles. Still on that? I will never get over it. They spent the morning going over documents. Emily was typing so forcefully it sounded like the keyboard was crying for help. Ryan, on the other hand, watched her with that relaxed look, like she was putting on a play and he had front row seats. In the middle of reading a report, he said, Do you always fix your hair like that when you're annoyed? Only when I have to deal with teasing billionaires. Good. I'll use that as an emotional thermometer. And do you always cross your arms and look at me like you know things I don't? Just the secrets of your patience, which, I have to admit, is impressive. She raised an eyebrow at him. Do you really need to comment on everything? Only when the company is interesting. Emily tried to ignore him. But his comments had an annoyingly charming quality. Around noon, they went down together to the company cafeteria. The walk to the elevator was quiet, but as soon as the doors closed, Ryan let out a loud sigh. This elevator takes longer than my college degree. Oh, so you didn't inherit the company? No, I studied, worked, drank awful coffee, and lived like an intern for 3 years. Hard to picture you as an intern. I was great. One time I typed a whole report wearing oven mitts because the AC was broken. Emily let out a small laugh. Seriously? Sadly, yes. The elevator jerked for a second, making a strange noise. They looked at each other, tense. Was that a sign from above? Emily asked. Maybe. Something like you're flirting at work. Get back to your spreadsheets. Flirting? Who's flirting? You are. Me? You're the one saying lines that sound like a French perfume ad. That was flirting too. Stop it. The doors opened. They walked out with serious faces that fooled no one. At lunch, they sat at a table in the corner. Emily wanted to avoid the curious glances from coworkers. Claire walked by every 5 minutes just to say hi with a suspicious smile. Claire thinks we're in some office drama, Emily whispered, eyeing her friend. Aren't we? If we are, it's a badly written episode. Ryan bit into his sandwich. I like badly written episodes. They always have surprises. Later, back in the office, they were discussing a contract clause. This is badly worded. Payment with retroactive date until the last 10th of the month, Emily said, pointing with her pen. It's standard legal language. It sounds robotic. Can I rewrite it? Go ahead. But if I get a letter from legal using slang like super cool, I'll blame you. Emily wrote, payment will be made by the last day of the month based on the agreed amounts. Clear. Elegant? No slang, she said. Ryan read it and nodded. Impressive, I know. I can also make coffee with one hand and print labels with the other. I don't doubt it. And you? Me what? Besides riding bikes and removing women's clothes in public, do you have any useful skills? Ryan laughed, the kind of relaxed laugh that made Emily secretly more irritated. I cook. Not well, but I do, and I can tie a necktie with my eyes closed. Congrats. That'll save you in a necktie uprising. And you? I can guess someone's coffee order just by looking at their face. Try me. She looked at him for 3 seconds. Oat milk latte with a pinch of cinnamon, because you pretend to be more complicated than you are. Ryan blinked. Slowly. Was I right? Unnervingly, yes. I'm good at this game. You're good at more things than you let on. She didn't respond. She looked at the clock. I have to drop off some reports at HR. Want me to go with you? No, it'll look like we're flirting again. And the elevator might want revenge. She walked off firmly. Ryan watched her disappear down the hallway, and for the first time that day, he had nothing to say. He just stood there, staring at the door with a slight smile. Later in the afternoon, Emily went back to her old desk to grab a mug she'd forgotten. Claire was already there, obviously waiting. So? So what? How many kisses so far? Claire. Just asking. You've laughed, argued, flirted. The next step is either a kiss or a dramatic hallway argument. Nothing like that is going to happen. You like him. I hate him. You like him in a way you haven't figured out yet. Emily huffed and walked away, pretending the conversation didn't get to her. But deep down, a little voice said, what if Claire's right? On Friday morning, Emily had barely arrived at the office when she saw a golden envelope on her desk, with her name handwritten in elegant cursive. Claire, of course, was already beside her, practically buzzing with excitement. Someone's feeling very important. What's that? If it's a fashion court summons, probably deserved. Emily muttered, carefully taking the envelope. She opened it. Inside was a fancy invitation to the company's annual event, a gala dinner with all the executives, investors, and senior staff. Oh no, she said, reading the bold print. Mandatory presence of the CEO's personal assistant. That means you, Claire smiled. And in that new dress. You're ready to shine, huh? Emily sighed. Shine isn't the word I'd use. Quietly survive sounds better. Later, around lunchtime, she got an internal call from the executive floor. Mr. Cooper's office. It's him. Can you come up? Emily rolled her eyes, grabbed her notepad, and walked up with steady steps. When she entered, she saw Ryan with his back turned, fiddling with a small white box on his desk. You called? Yes, he said, turning around with a package in his hands. This is for you. If it's another skirt, I'd rather pick my own, thanks. It's not. It's a gift. She raised an eyebrow. Is it poison? No. It's a dress. Emily frowned. You got me a dress? For the event. Consider it a long overdue apology and a thank you for surviving 2 weeks as my assistant without killing me. She hesitated. The package was elegant, delicate, very nicely wrapped, and smelled ridiculously good. Look, Ryan, you don't need to buy me clothes. I already have a dress. You do? Yes. Navy blue, thin fabric, no sparkle, and a zipper that always gets stuck? Emily's eyes widened. How do you know? I'm observant. I'm also good with zippers. But this one. He held up the box. This is different. I think it'll suit you. She crossed her arms defiantly. If it's red, I'm sending it back. What if it's black with subtle details and a cut that flatters without overdoing it? I'll think about wearing it. That night, Emily walked into the main hall, holding a black clutch borrowed from Claire, her heart pounding. The dress really was black, with a gentle shimmer on the shoulders and an elegant slit that showed her legs as she walked. She felt different. But what made her most nervous was knowing that at any moment Ryan Cooper would appear, and surely say something clever to throw her off like always. She spotted colleagues, directors, a few investors she only knew by email. And then finally she saw him. Ryan was talking with a group of businessmen, laughing at something that didn't seem funny, like all CEOs at formal events. But when he saw her, he froze for a second, just 1 second. And that was enough for Claire, standing beside her, to whisper, "He's looking." And he stopped smiling. Must have remembered the bicycle trauma. He's coming. Oh my gosh, he's coming. I'm shaking, and it's not even about me. Ryan crossed the room and stopped in front of Emily. He looked her up and down with a light, almost respectful smile. The dress suits you. Trying to say it looks great on me? No, I'm saying the dress is lucky to be on you. Emily bit her lip, trying not to smile. Are you going to use that charm all night? Just until you admit you liked the gift. Maybe I like it a little. How much is a little? About 10%. That's progress. We'll be at 50 soon. If we get to 50, you're leaving here on a bicycle. Will you ride with me? Only if you don't try to take anything off along the way. They laughed together, and for the first time since the start of their emotional Cold War, things between them felt light. Almost easy. Let's play a little game for those reading the comments. Type it down there. Only those who got this far will get it. Now let's continue the story. During dinner, they sat at the same table among directors and other guests. Emily found herself relaxing, telling funny stories about work, and Ryan laughed with genuine interest, like everything about her was a discovery. But not everything would be perfect. While they were getting dessert, a tall blonde woman in a gold dress with knife-sharp heels approached the table. Ryan, what a surprise seeing you here. Emily felt a chill down her spine. Ryan turned politely, though his smile faded. Melissa, you made it. Of course. I'm a shareholder, remember? She gave Emily a look like she was examining a rare bug. And this is Emily, my assistant. Interesting. Melissa extended her hand. You two seem close. Only in chairs, Emily replied, shaking her hand with a forced smile. Melissa let out a light laugh, the kind that says, I'm going to destroy you and still sound polite. I'll see you around, she said, walking away with a sway that had probably been practiced in the mirror. Emily looked at Ryan. Who's the snake? Ex-girlfriend. Why does she say your name like it's a fancy perfume brand? Because she still thinks we're getting back together. Which isn't happening. Good to know. Were you jealous? I was afraid she might trip me with her stiletto heels. She wouldn't stand a chance. You could take her down with 2 hairpins. Emily laughed, and for a moment everything felt just a little too perfect. Hours later, when the guests started to leave, Ryan walked her to the door. Thanks for coming, and for wearing the dress. And thank you for not saying anything about my attempt to wear heels without looking like a limping duck. You walked gracefully. I hardly noticed you trip 3 times. That was part of the choreography. They laughed again, and then came a silence, this time heavier. Ryan looked into her eyes. I really enjoyed tonight. Me too. More than I expected. Would you like to go out sometime? Outside of work. No reports. No emails. No bikes. But before she could answer, a notification sound interrupted them. She picked up her phone. A message from Claire. Emily, you need to see this. Now. Urgent. Seconds later, another notification. A video. Emily clicked. The shaky footage showed Ryan talking to Melissa in the garden. Too close, smiling. She touched his arm. What? Ryan noticed the change in her face. Emily, you said there was nothing going on with her. There isn't. Then why were you two touching in the garden like a scene from a soap opera? It's not what it looks like. She put the phone away, her smile gone. Good night, Ryan. Emily? Thanks for the dress. And she walked away, leaving him standing alone at the entrance. Ryan sighed. He knew the night wasn't really over, but what bothered him the most was that for the first time he felt like he had no control over how the story would end. Emily spent the weekend watching that video over and over, 6 times, and every time the same feeling hit her like a punch in the stomach. He lied. Melissa was there touching Ryan's arm like they had just gotten back together, and he didn't pull away. He smiled, he chatted, he looked comfortable. Close. Claire, who had sent the video, tried to lighten the mood with her usual humor. Maybe she's like an allergy from the past. Pops up out of nowhere, itches a little, then goes away. She looked pretty comfortable with the itch. Emily replied, lying on the couch in her avocado pajamas. You're clearly upset, which means you care. Emily didn't answer. Upset was putting it mildly. The problem wasn't just the ex or the arm touching. It was the fact that Ryan had looked her in the eyes and said there was nothing going on with Melissa. And now she couldn't decide if she was more upset with him or with herself for starting to believe the whole thing. Monday, 9 a.m. Emily knocked on the office door firmly. When Ryan said, "Come in," she entered like a storm. "Good morning, Mr. Cooper," she said, using the most professional tone she could manage. He looked up from his laptop and smiled, but it quickly faded. "Emily, is everything okay?" "Everything's great, ready for another week of hard work and zero emotional involvement." He frowned. That was specific. "Just being clear, after all, we're professionals, right?" "Right," he answered cautiously. "Is something wrong?" "Not unless you've got another ex hiding in the garden." He blinked. "Oh, yeah, oh." Ryan leaned forward in his chair. "You saw the video." "More times than I'd like to admit." "I can explain." "Of course you can. But that doesn't change the fact that you told me one thing and then acted like you were still into her at the same event." "I'm not into her. Not at all. Didn't look that way. She showed up unexpectedly, started chatting. I was just being polite." "Polite? She was all over you like a perfume commercial." "You know that's not true." "I don't know anything anymore." "Know why?" "Because I started to trust you, and that was my mistake." Silence filled the room. "Emily?" "No, let's get to work. I don't get paid to feel things. I get paid to manage your schedule, remind you of meetings, and resist the urge to hit you with a pencil holder." Ryan leaned back in his chair, saying nothing. For the first time, he looked lost. The following days were a parade of passive-aggressive silence. Emily carried out all her tasks with surgical precision. She took notes, scheduled appointments, typed, delivered reports, but nothing beyond what was necessary. No jokes, no glances, no light sarcasm. Ryan, on the other hand, tried to ease the tension with his usual lines. "Coffee with oat milk and a pinch of awkward silence?" She handed him the mug without saying a word. On Wednesday, during a meeting with investors, Emily made sure to sit across the room, far from him. When he called her to present one of the charts, she replied sharply, "Sure. After all, you always call me when you need someone to save your presentation." The investor laughed. Ryan didn't. After the meeting, he stopped her in the hallway. "We need to talk. I don't see a reason. You're hurt, and I want to fix that. You want to control it. That's not the same thing." "Emily, look, Ryan, I joined this company with zero expectations. Zero. Then you showed up, pulled my world apart, messed with my routine, my head, and now you act like none of it matters. But it does. Too late." She turned around and walked away, leaving him alone in the hallway, shoulders down. On Friday, Melissa showed up again. This time, she walked straight in like she had full access. Wearing an expensive outfit, crystal heels, and a confident smile, Emily saw her heading toward reception and quickly slipped into the break room. Claire came in 2 minutes later, out of breath. "The Viper's back. She's on Ryan's floor." "Does he know she's here?" "I think so." She walked in like she owns the place. Emily bit her lip. She thought about going up, thought about ignoring it, thought about quitting and running off to Hawaii. But she stayed. An hour later, Ryan came downstairs. He looked for Emily and found her by the printer, waiting for a report. "We need to talk. Now." She didn't even look at him. "We already did, remember? You explained. I lost it. That's it." Melissa came to say goodbye. "Wow. To you or to my patients?" "She's leaving the country. She's taking care of her family's business overseas. This has nothing to do with you." "Then why are you telling me?" Because I wanted you to know, to see that there's no us anymore. And you want applause? No, I want a chance to fix what I broke. You didn't just break that, Ryan. You broke the way I used to see you. Then look at me again. She looked at him for a moment, but before she could say anything, her phone rang. It was HR. I have to take this. She turned and left him standing there once again. That night, Emily sat on her couch with a tub of ice cream and her phone in hand. She thought about everything. The bicycle, the skirt, the golden invitation, the black dress, the way Ryan looked at her when she truly laughed. And for the first time in days, she cried. Not a dramatic soap opera cry, but a quiet, held-back cry. Like someone who realizes they're in too deep to go back, but still afraid to move forward. Monday, 8:45 a.m. Emily arrived early. The skirt was new, the blouse too, hair tied up in a quick bun, and her heart, a mess disguised as responsibility. Ryan wasn't in yet. She used the quiet to organize her desk, review the schedule, and make his coffee. When he walked in, they looked at each other for a second. One of those seconds that feels like forever. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning," she replied, softer than she meant to. He walked to his desk, took off his blazer, sat down, and stayed silent. A few minutes later, without looking up, he said, "If you want to leave, I understand." Emily frowned. "What do you mean?" "If you don't want to keep being my assistant, if you want to go back to your old department or leave the company, I understand. I don't want to be another weight in your life." She took a deep breath, thought for a moment, then said firmly, "I'm not leaving. Not yet." "Why not?" "Because I haven't decided if you're worth it." Ryan swallowed hard. "That's fair. And also, because despite everything, I like the challenge." He looked up. "Working with me? Putting up with you? That's almost a compliment. It's the best you'll get today." They both smiled, small, hesitant, but real. And just like that, after a week of tension, silence, and an ex-girlfriend haunting the halls, the two of them took one uncertain step towards starting over. No promises, no guarantees, just the idea that maybe, just maybe, there was still something there. Something worth fighting for. The office felt quieter that week. The voices in the halls sounded muffled, like someone had turned down the volume on the routine. Even the sound of Emily's keyboard felt different, less angry, more tired. There was an invisible wall between her and Ryan. It wasn't made of harsh words or open wounds. It was made of hesitation, of missing smiles, of avoided glances. Emily kept working. She answered what needed to be answered, met her deadlines, organized schedules, took calls, but what used to be full of sarcasm and light teasing had turned into dry phrases like, "Meeting at 2 p.m., the report was submitted, the call with the client is scheduled." On the other side, Ryan seemed to adjust to the silence with quiet discomfort. He tried to stay professional, but he wasn't blind. He knew Emily was there out of duty, not choice. He knew he had lost something, something subtle, something valuable. On Tuesday, while coming back from an off-site meeting, Ryan passed by a park near the office. He stopped his bike, which had become just a quiet way to get around, and sat on a bench in the shade. He stayed there for almost 20 minutes. No phone, no thoughts about weekly charts, just trying to figure out exactly when everything went off track. When a simple, awkward meeting on the street had turned into emotional confusion. He remembered their first elevator talk, the silly arguments, the way she refused to be charmed. And strangely, that's what had charmed him most. Now there were no jokes, no yelling about ripped skirts, no office debates about who was more stubborn. Now there was just distance. Claire noticed the change on the second day. "You're acting like you're going through a divorce without ever being married," she said, tossing a candy wrapper into the trash with perfect aim. Emily answered with a sigh. "It's not a divorce, it's more like an emotional break. Does he know you're on this break?" "He's probably on the same one." "Do you still like him?" "I like who he was before he became a walking dilemma." "Emily." "Claire, if he had just been honest from the start, maybe things would be different. But now, every time I look at him, I remember that night, that video, that feeling of being misled." But he explained it. "I know." "And you believe him?" Emily stayed quiet for a moment before answering. "I do, but I can't forget." Ryan, on his side, tried to fill the gap with work. He started leaving the office earlier. Eating lunch alone, delegating tasks to assistants from other departments, even though he knew Emily would do them better. And she noticed. She noticed files being passed to others, emails he used to ask her to write, now being handled by interns. She also noticed that he avoided looking at her in the hallway. It was as if they were standing on opposite sides of the same bridge, both waiting for the other to take the first step. On Thursday afternoon, Emily was called by HR. They needed her to help organize the annual leadership meeting, which would bring together representatives from different company branches. It was a big event, and she'd have to work with another executive coordinator. She accepted right away. Anything that kept her busy and away from the daily tension with Ryan was welcome. During the planning meetings, she met Daniel Miller, a manager from one of the East Coast branches. Tall, cheerful, a bit clumsy, but with a light energy that contrasted with the office's gray atmosphere. "So you're the famous Emily Parker," he said, shaking her hand with a genuine smile. "Famous? I've heard stories. Like she runs 3 meetings at once and still keeps the corporate world from falling apart." Emily smiled. "Oh, that. Yes, I can confirm. That's my superpower." With Daniel, the heaviness in her chest felt lighter. The conversations were easy, no hidden messages, no history. And little by little, she found herself laughing again, not in the same way she laughed with Ryan, but in a new way. Lighter, safer. On Friday, after another planning meeting, Daniel invited her for coffee. "Just to thank you for saving my reputation in front of the marketing coordinators," he said, putting his hands in his pockets with a childlike smile. Emily accepted. The coffee was pleasant. She shared funny stories from her early days at the company, and he talked about his work trips gone wrong, including one where he forgot his suitcase at the hotel and only realized it at the airport. They laughed. A lot. And at one point, Daniel looked at her with a little more attention. "You have a beautiful laugh, you know that?" Emily looked away. "You're also good at making compliments sound like jokes. And you're very good at changing the subject." She smiled, and for a brief moment she felt that maybe, just maybe, she was starting to open up to something new. That same day, Ryan walked into the meeting room and, through the inner window, saw Emily sitting in the company's cafe. She was with Daniel, laughing, head tilted, eyes glowing, and Ryan felt something he couldn't quite explain. It wasn't jealousy. It was an odd discomfort, a restlessness. Like watching a movie he had started to enjoy, but now someone else had taken his seat. He closed the blinds, went back to his office, and for the first time in weeks, he sat down, unable to focus on work. "Do you think he saw us?" Emily asked Claire the next day. "Oh, for sure. You think he doesn't watch you? He pretends not to, but he tracks your every move like a motion detector. He doesn't have that right anymore. And Daniel, he's nice. Nice like, could be my cousin, or nice like, maybe I should give him a shot? I'm not sure yet." Claire touched her arm. "Just don't shut the door just because one window didn't work out, okay?" Emily laughed. "Poetic. I learned it from fortune cookies." The following week, the distance between Emily and Ryan felt more formal than ever. Their interactions were minimal, professional, calculated. During a strategic planning meeting, he asked her a question, and she answered accurately, but without looking at him. Daniel, also in the room, took note of everything. He didn't say anything, but later in the hallway he casually said, "You seem a little tense around your boss." "Oh, that? Corporate stuff. Got it. If you ever want to talk, I'm good at listening without interrupting. It's my hidden talent." Emily smiled, and this time she accepted the dinner invitation. That evening, they went to a restaurant with live music. They talked, laughed, and Daniel drove her home. At the door, he leaned in slightly. Emily hesitated but then touched her cheek to his for a kiss. "Thanks for tonight," she said. "Anytime," he replied, smiling before walking away. She walked in, closed the door, and saw her reflection in the living room mirror. For a moment, she tried to imagine what it would have been like if Ryan had been the one there. But the image didn't fit, like trying to place a piece from the wrong puzzle. She sighed, picked up her phone and saw an unread message from Ryan. "Great job coordinating the event. I saw the photos. You looked great." Emily stared at the screen for a few seconds before replying, "Thanks. I hope the project met your expectations." Cold, professional. Ryan read it and didn't reply. The event the next week was a success. Everything went as planned. At the end, Emily and Daniel were congratulated by upper management. They got bonuses and public praise. Ryan watched from a distance. He clapped, he smiled, but didn't come closer. Emily noticed and didn't go to him either. They were once again on opposite sides of the bridge, this time farther apart than ever, and yet something between them hadn't fully broken. It was like an invisible thread, stretched, tense, almost snapped, but still there, present, waiting. The last thing Emily expected to find on her desk that morning was a handwritten envelope. The handwriting was familiar, straight, neat, no frills, like someone who prefers saying things with as few words as possible. She hesitated before opening it. The office was still empty. Ryan hadn't arrived yet. Claire walked by behind her, holding a cup of chamomile tea and giving her a curious look. Secret message? Invitation to Hogwarts? No, looks more like a letter. A letter? In 2025? That's someone trying to apologize with emotional impact. Emily didn't answer. She opened it. Emily, I thought about sending this by email. More practical, less risky. But I realized part of the problem between us started when I kept choosing the easy way. So, for the first time in a long while, I'm doing it the hard way. You may not know this, but I noticed you from day one. Even before the skirt and the bike. Yes, I had already seen you at reception a few days earlier. That day was just chaotic. But after the mess, the arguments, the sharp conversations, I started liking how you challenged me. I'm not writing this to excuse my mistakes. They exist, and I own them. Melissa was part of my past for a long time, so when she showed up, I froze. Not because I felt anything for her, but because I was afraid of falling into the same old patterns I've always hated. You brought me something new, something I couldn't control, and that scared me. If I have even the smallest chance of helping you see who I really am, not just who I was when I got it wrong, I'm going to take it, even if now you're smiling because of someone else. With everything I still don't know how to say face to face, Ryan Emily stood still. The paper trembled in her hands. The handwriting danced before her eyes, blurring into small wet spots that she quickly wiped away with her sleeve. Claire stepped closer. So, he wrote a letter. Oh, great. Now it really feels like a soap opera. What does it say? That he regrets it, that he saw me before the bike, and that he's trying to fix everything the hard way. Claire looked at her for a moment, then said, This got to you, didn't it? Emily just nodded. That day, Ryan avoided crossing paths with her. He knew he had left something too personal on the table, but he didn't regret it. Maybe it was the only way he could be heard, with no interruptions, no sarcasm, no masks. For the first time, he didn't try to control her. He just let go. Later that afternoon, Emily appeared at his office door. She knocked softly. Can I come in? He stood up right away. Of course, she walked in without the stern look she had before. She wasn't smiling, but she also didn't have that cold air she'd carried in recent weeks. I read your letter. He waited, tense. I wasn't expecting that. Neither was I, but I had to say it. She stepped up to the desk, stopped in front of him. When Melissa showed up, it wasn't just her that shook me. It was everything at once. The idea that maybe I was being too naive, throwing myself into something I didn't really understand. You were never naive. I was, because I let myself imagine things. Imagine what? She took a deep breath, rested her fingers on the desk. That between the torn skirt and the mixed-up coffees, a story was happening. One just for us. And it was. I wanted to believe that. But when everything got messy, I realized I was hoping for a kind of love that might only exist in books. Ryan walked around the desk, stopping in front of her. There's no such thing as perfect love, but there are people willing to try. I'm trying, Emily. I know. And Daniel? She looked at him, surprised by the direct question. Daniel is easy to be around. He's kind. He makes me laugh. He doesn't make me overthink everything. But he's not you. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment, taking in those words like fresh air after being underwater. I don't want to mess things up with you anymore. I don't want to feel like I'm losing myself. Then let's take it slow. Slow. Might work. They both smiled. It wasn't a reconciliation. It wasn't a declaration. It was something in between. An emotional truce. A chance. In the following days, Ryan and Emily began talking again, more lightly. The jokes came back, but now more carefully. Their eyes met, but without urgency. They seemed like two strangers learning a new language. Each other's language. Daniel noticed the change and quietly stepped back. He remained Emily's friend, but made it clear he wouldn't compete for something that was never his. "He's who you want," he told her at a cafe a week later. And that's okay. Life's like that. Sometimes we're just bridges. Sometimes we're the destination. You're more than a bridge, Daniel. You're kindness. Kindness also knows when to leave the stage. A new project came up at the company. An international expansion. Ryan would need to travel, and he'd take a small team with him for key meetings. Emily was the first one chosen to go. But she hesitated. "It's going to be a long trip." "I know," Ryan said. "Hours on the same plane, same hotel, same time zone. It'll be a test. For me, for you, for us." She thought for a moment. What if everything falls apart? Then we rebuild, or learn to live with the ruins. Emily took a deep breath. "Okay, I'll go." The trip was a turning point. During meetings, Ryan was focused, sharp, confident, but outside of work, he was different. He showed her the city, shared stories from his intern days, opened up about personal moments with ease. One night on the hotel rooftop, they looked out over the city lights below. "Have you ever thought about stopping?" she asked. "Stopping what?" "Trying to please everyone. Always being right. Always in control." "I have. But the business world isn't kind to people who seem weak." "What if I told you? Your vulnerability is the most interesting thing about you." He looked at her for a few seconds. "Then maybe I should start showing that side more." "Maybe you should." A comfortable silence settled between them, until he said, "That day with the bike, I thought I'd never see you again. And I thought you deserved a fine." "Maybe I still do," she laughed. So did he. And then, slowly he reached out and held her hand. They didn't say anything, because that night, silence said it all. The return from the trip was silent. But not uncomfortable silence. It was that rare, comfortable kind of silence. Emily stared out the airplane window, while Ryan, sitting next to her, was reviewing a proposal on his laptop, but occasionally glanced at her, as if he wanted to make sure she was still there. There was something in the air, something unsaid. A good kind of tension. Not uncomfortable, but also not going away. When the plane landed and they took a taxi together, Ryan was the first to speak. "I was thinking, tomorrow is Saturday." "Great observation," Emily said, giving him a half smile. "And I thought maybe we could do something. Outside the office, no spreadsheets, no emails, no quarterly profit reports. Like a date, but a special one." Emily raised an eyebrow. "You're not asking me out, are you?" "No." He paused. "I'm asking you for a chance." "A chance?" "A chance to see what we are outside these walls. No pressure, no labels, just the two of us." She looked away to the window. Her heart sped up a little, nothing she let show. "All right," she said finally. "But if there's a bike involved, I'm out. I promise. Nothing with wheels." The next morning, Emily woke up with an unusual sense of anxiety. She spent 20 minutes picking out an outfit that was casual but not sloppy, pretty but not overdone, as if that were something you could actually measure. When she stepped out of the building, Ryan was standing in front of a car, and beside him, a light blue scooter. "You said nothing with wheels," she exclaimed, stopping in the middle of the sidewalk. "I said nothing with a bike. This is a scooter. It's a different category. You're a technical liar, but a charming one." She crossed her arms. "No way I'm getting on that." "Then, let's walk." The scooter was just for retro charm. He shrugged. "I was sure you'd refuse." "Oh, great. You know me too well now? Not enough yet. That's why the invite." They walked to a nearby park, where a weekend food fair was taking place. Colorful stalls, tempting aromas, and a lively crowd. "This is unexpected," Emily said, accepting a goat cheese sample from a smiling vendor. "I thought it would be fun. Plus, you like things off the beaten path." "Have you been studying my behavior?" "I consider it part of the job. CEO studying assistant profile, right? Very professional." They strolled between the stalls, stopping to try homemade pies, truffle garlic bread, pistachio brigadeiros, which Emily judged with a skeptical look before admitting they were good. In the middle of the park, there was a Ferris wheel, surrounded by kids and teenagers. "Oh no, don't even think about it," Emily said, seeing Ryan turn his face toward the attraction. "I didn't say anything." "You looked. I'm innocent." "You're never innocent." But minutes later, they were sitting together in cabin number 12, slowly rising as the city stretched out in the background. "Do you remember our first day?" he asked. The day you ripped my skirt? The same one. He laughed. I thought in that moment you'd hate me for the rest of your life. I thought that too. And now? She looked at him. For a moment there was no cabin, no park, no fair. Just them, suspended in time. Now, I don't know what we are, but I don't hate you anymore, if that helps. That's already a big win. He took her hand. Not like he wanted to claim it, but like he was asking for permission. And she didn't pull away. The Ferris wheel ride ended, but the ease between them stayed. After the park, they continued walking through an old neighborhood in the city. They entered a small bookstore, with the smell of aging pages. Emily pulled books off the shelves at random, laughing at the titles, while Ryan followed, watching her more than the covers. If you were a book, what genre would you be? He asked, leaning against a shelf. Romantic comedy with existential drama and a pinch of irony, she answered without hesitation. Sounds fair. And you? A complex instruction manual that no one reads until something goes wrong. She laughed out loud, and at that moment, Ryan knew. This was it. Right here. Right now. Emily? Can I ask you a more serious question? You're not going to propose to me, are you? Not yet. She fell silent, half joking, half suspicious. Then asked. Would you give me a real chance? Emily looked at him. For a few seconds she seemed to search for an answer inside herself, like someone sifting through a messy drawer looking for something important. But before she could respond, the ground seemed to move. Literally. A loud crash echoed. A delivery truck parked wrong on the corner jerked as it tried to pull away, and when it hit the curb, it startled a group of cyclists. One of them lost control, and as if scripted by a sarcastic universe, flew straight into the bookstore window. Glass shattered. People screamed. The cyclist fell on a pile of decorative cushions and walked away unscathed. But Emily, surprised, stumbling backward, landed sitting, tearing the hem of her new skirt on an exposed screw from a shelf. Ryan rushed to her. Are you okay? She looked at her skirt. Are you kidding me? You didn't get hurt? Just my pride and my skirt again. Ryan tried not to laugh, really hard. If you laugh, I swear. I won't, he said, trying to hold back a chuckle. I swear. But then Emily started laughing too. It was that kind of desperate, comic laughter, the kind that only comes when the universe insists too much on a repeated joke. I'm a joke, Ryan. A walking joke. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. She stopped. The laughter faded slowly. You're saying that while I'm sitting on the floor, with a torn skirt surrounded by cushions and broken glass? Especially now. He reached out his hand to help her up. That wasn't the date I imagined, he said. It was chaotic, like everything with us. But sincere. She nodded. Sincere. Back in the car, with her skirt patched up with bookstore tape and a cushion as a bonus on her lap, Emily looked at him. About your question. Ryan kept his eyes on the road, but his heart raced. I don't have an answer yet, she continued. But I want to keep asking with you. Then there's no problem. We'll build the answer. She smiled, a tired but genuine smile. Just no bikes. Promise? I promise. But deep down they both knew. It wasn't the bikes that were the problem. It was the heart. And that, definitely, was on the move. Emily didn't know exactly when doubt started to follow her more intensely than certainty. Maybe it had started in the bookstore, among the cushions and broken glass, or the moment Ryan extended his hand with that look of someone who expected nothing anymore, but offered everything. The fact is, in the days that followed, she felt torn. It wasn't like before, when anger and hurt dominated everything. Now, it was worse, because she wasn't angry, she wasn't disappointed, she was involved, scared, hopeful, all at once. The messages between them started again, but at their own pace, neither too intense nor cold. Conversations about trivial things, inside jokes, random comments about coworkers, like they were trying to build new ground over the rubble of what had been. At work, they kept it discreet. No more obvious flirting, no loud teasing, but there were glances, small smiles, and, at certain moments, a quiet proximity that spoke louder than any conversation. One gray afternoon, Claire showed up at Emily's office with 2 coffees and a suspicious look. You're hiding, she said, handing her one of the cups. I'm working. Working with an expression like you're about to run off to a deserted island. Emily sighed. Claire, have you ever felt like you were about to make a decision that would change everything? I have. Every time I click buy on an internet sale. I'm being serious. I am too. But yes, I've felt that. When I decided to end a 3-year relationship, for example, or when I agreed to move to a new city alone. Big decisions are scary. And how do you know if you're making the right choice? You don't know. You feel it. And even then, sometimes it feels wrong. Life doesn't come with email confirmation. Emily leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling. Ryan asked me without words if we still have a chance, and I answered, also without words, maybe yes. And now? Now I need to decide if I want to keep trying or if it's better to stop here. Claire drank her coffee. Want some advice? Always. If you're going to mess up, let it be because of courage, never because of fear. Emily smiled. You read that in a fortune cookie, but didn't you? No. It was on a motivational post with a cheesy sunset, but it worked. That night, Emily opened her closet and stared at her clothes as if searching for a sign. There were too many dresses she hadn't worn in months. Blouses she bought on impulse, pants that no longer fit. And then there was that skirt. Not the one torn on the bike, but an identical one, bought weeks later. It was there, hanging, like a reminder of everything that started absurdly. She picked it up and folded it carefully. Then she sat on the bed and wrote a single message. Tomorrow. After work. The park where you almost killed me. Just you and me. Ryan responded with a bicycle emoji and a heart. Emily rolled her eyes and smiled. The next day, the workday felt longer than usual. The clock seemed to move slower, as if time itself was nervous. Emily tried to distract herself with simple tasks, organizing documents, reviewing contracts, ignoring the tremble in her hands. At exactly 6 p.m., she walked down the stairs with firm steps, even though her heart was racing. Ryan was already there. This time, no bike, no suit, just jeans, a gray t-shirt, and that same look he always had, calm on the outside, confused on the inside. On time, he said, hands in his pockets. I had an appointment with someone who had changed my life. He sounds pretentious. He is. But maybe he deserves a chance. They started walking through the park in silence. The place was the same as before, but it felt different. Maybe because now they were too. I've thought a lot about us, Emily said, stopping near the lake. So have I. And I've come to the conclusion that I'm scared. Of me? Of everything. Of jumping in and getting hurt, of creating expectations, of becoming just another unresolved story in your life. Emily? Let me finish, he nodded. But despite all that, despite all the chaos, the misunderstandings, the failures, I still feel something I can't explain, and I don't want to ignore it. Ryan took a step forward. So tell me what you want. She took a deep breath. I want to keep going, but on my terms, at my pace. No rush, no pressure. I want something real, not perfect. And you'll have it. You say that now, and I'll say it tomorrow too, and after that, and every day you let me be around. They looked at each other, and there was no more doubt. Emily took his hand. But if you rip another one of my skirts, I'll report you to the UN. It's a deal. The relationship that started there wasn't a fairy tale. It was human. With mistakes, adjustments, inside jokes, and some slips back into old habits. Let's have some fun with those who only read the comments. Type bike in the comments, only those who got this far will understand. Now let's continue the story. Ryan learned to listen more, to control less, to be vulnerable. Emily learned to trust, to forgive, to allow herself. They still had tough days, late emails, cold coffees, long nights, but they also had spontaneous laughs, long hugs, and that good feeling of knowing they were trying together. One day, weeks later, Emily got a call from HR. A new position was opening up, internal communications coordinator, a step forward, a new phase. But it meant no longer being Ryan's personal assistant, she thought. Weighed the options, questioned herself. That night, she told him. You have to accept, he said, without hesitation. Even if we see each other less, I'd rather see you less and see you happy than see you every day knowing you're stuck because of me. She kissed him, slowly, as if thanking him. You're doing great as a boyfriend. I'm trying a lot, but I'm still scared of messing up, and I'm scared of getting hurt. So we keep messing up and healing together. On her last day as assistant, Emily walked into Ryan's office with an envelope in her hand. Is this a goodbye note? He asked. Something like that. He opened it. Inside was a tiny bicycle with a paper skirt stuck on the wheel. A gift? A reminder. Of what? that sometimes the silliest stumbles lead to unexpected places. He looked at her. I wouldn't change a thing. Neither would I. They hugged, and right there in that moment, everything felt in the right place. The promotion wasn't just a career leap for Emily. It was a dive into new territory. Now, as internal communications coordinator, she was dealing directly with departments she barely knew, managing tight deadlines, leading small teams, and making decisions she had once only observed from afar. And with that came distance. Not just physical, now on another floor in a different wing of the company, but also an invisible distance that had crept in between her and Ryan. Before, she knew every detail of his routine. Now, she only heard about it. Mr. Cooper requested a change in the board meeting agenda. The CEO is out today, visiting a key client. Ryan asked for new materials for the investor presentation. Everything came through others. Nothing was said directly anymore. In the early days, Emily tried to ignore it. After all, it wasn't her job anymore to keep that constant contact. And they still saw each other outside of work. Quick dinners, end-of-day texts, some coffees during the week. But everything was changing quietly. As if an invisible veil was slowly being pulled between them. Even the conversations had changed. "How was your day?" Ryan would ask. "Busy. Had to review a report with mistakes, deal with 2 nervous interns, and still manage the internal engagement campaign. How about you?" "Meetings. Meetings. And more meetings." Yep. Long pauses, short answers. Conversations that used to flow for hours now seemed to stumble after a few sentences. On a Tuesday night, Emily was leaving work when she ran into Ryan in the underground parking lot. It was the first time they'd seen each other by chance in weeks. "You here this late?" he said, surprised. "Presentation ran late, just got out." "And your dinner with Claire?" "I canceled, wasn't in the mood." They stood there for a second, looking at each other. Both seemed more tired than they remembered. "Is something wrong with us?" she asked suddenly. Ryan took a deep breath. "I was going to ask you the same thing. Everything feels distant, forced. Like we're trying to keep a conversation going that's already over." "Do you think it's over?" "I don't know." She looked away. "I think what scares me the most isn't the end, it's the doubt. The feeling that we're losing each other, without even realizing it." Ryan stepped closer. "I'm still here, Emily, but are we still here?" Silence. "Maybe we need some space," she said, struggling. "Space. Not to end it. Just to breathe." Ryan nodded, but his eyes said something else. "All right. Do you understand?" "No, but I respect it." In the days that followed, Emily threw herself into work. Projects, deadlines, meetings. She tried to fill the emotional gaps with tasks like organizing a shelf to forget that the house was empty. Claire noticed right away. "You're in survival mode," she said, sitting down at Emily's desk with a cup of tea. "I'm busy." "You're trying to distract yourself. It works. Temporarily. Then it turns into silence. Sometimes silence is necessary, but not when it comes from a place that used to be full." Emily stayed silent. Claire grabbed a piece of candy from the desk. "When are you going to talk to him? When I know what to say? What if it's too late?" Then it was meant to be. Meanwhile, Ryan buried himself in work more than ever. His employees noticed. Colder, more direct, less involved. Then, during a board meeting, someone mentioned Emily's new internal campaign. Her team did a great job. Engagement levels went up 27% in 2 months. Ryan just nodded. But inside, something tightened. Pride and sadness. He wasn't there to see it happen. He hadn't been part of the process. He had no idea what she went through to achieve that result. That's when he realized he was letting Emily slip through his fingers once again. And this time, without even fighting for it. 2 days later, Emily arrived at the office and found an envelope on her desk. The same kind of envelope as before, the same handwriting. She hesitated before opening it. But she opened it. "Emily, when you asked me for space, I thought it was just room to breathe. But time passed and I realized it was also silence. And that silence forced me to listen. I realized I've been trying to keep you close, without truly being with you. I was your chaos and your calm. But maybe I've also been your burden. I don't want to be a hard memory anymore. If there's still room for me on your path, I'm ready. But if there isn't, I'll understand. Just promise me one thing. Be happy. With me or without me. Always yours." Ryan. Emily slowly folded the letter. She stared at the envelope for several minutes, as if it were possible to reverse time with nothing but willpower. Then she grabbed her phone. But didn't call, didn't write, not yet. That night, Claire showed up with 2 glasses and a bottle of wine. Tonight we're going to do what best friends do when love life goes into waiting mode, talk nonsense and laugh at old memes. Is that therapy? It's what we've got, and it's cheaper. Emily laughed. Thanks for being here. I'll always be here. But you need to decide if you want him here too. I do. Then hurry. Before silence turns into a period. The next day, Ryan didn't show up to work. Emily was surprised. No one knew exactly why. The secretary just said he'd taken the day off for personal reasons. At lunchtime, she picked up her phone, called, rang, went to voicemail. She hesitated, then typed a message. Read your letter. We need to talk. Today, is that okay? Nothing. 2 hours later, still no response. Claire came into the room with a newspaper. Did you see this? What? Claire turned the newspaper. A business column highlighted Ryan's possible transfer to an international branch. A new project, a bigger role, a new city. Emily froze. He didn't say anything. Maybe he's still deciding, or maybe he's already decided. She grabbed her phone and tried calling again. Voicemail. Her heart raced. She left the room, went down the stairs, ran to the parking lot. Nothing. His car wasn't there. The weather changed that afternoon. A light rain started falling, as if the sky itself felt the weight of the moment. Standing in the company's lobby, Emily finally wrote, "If you're still in town, meet me at our spot, please." And she sent it. Then she grabbed her umbrella and left. She arrived at the park, wet, empty, quiet. She sat on the bench by the lake, waiting. Minutes passed, then a few more. The rain picked up, and so did the fear. Fear that she was too late, that she had waited so long for an answer, and when she finally wanted to give one, there was no one left to listen. But then, through the misty fog, a figure approached, hands in pockets, slow steps, hair messy from the rain. "You came," she said, standing up. "Of course I did," he replied, out of breath. I almost left, but something told me there was one last conversation left." Emily moved closer. The letter. It was all I could say clearly. "And now? Now I need to hear from you." She took a deep breath. "I choose to keep going, even with the fear, even without certainty, because what we have isn't common, and I don't want to spend my life asking, what if?" Ryan took a step, then another. "I'm willing to start everything over, however is best for you. No rush, no pressure, just truth." They stood in silence for a moment, the rain falling around them like a soft soundtrack to their reunion. Then Emily extended her hand. "Start over with me?" Ryan took it. "Always." And there, in the same place where everything had gone wrong, they decided to begin again, this time the right way. Saying that starting over was easy would be a comfortable lie. Emily and Ryan both knew that. But surprisingly, they found that starting over with lightness could be better than trying to pick up where they left off. Now, everything was different. No more tense glances in the office or sharp jokes to hide their feelings. What they had was something more mature, still imperfect, because that was part of them, but honest. Natural. She still rolled her eyes at his jokes, and he still forgot his phone charger in important meetings. But they were together. For real. For the first time, without any reservations. One Saturday, Emily woke up to the smell of pancakes coming from the kitchen. "Are you trying to win me over with food?" she asked, appearing in the doorway with her hair tied up in a messy bun. "Win you over? I already won. Now I'm just maintaining the investment," Ryan replied, holding a spatula and wearing an apron that said Chef of Love. She looked at the apron. "Does that have glitter on it?" "Culinary glitter. Very sophisticated." They sat down to eat. The conversation flowed easily, just like it always did during the good times. "You know what I was thinking?" Ryan said, stacking pancakes. "That's always a risk. We've been through it all. Torn pants, nosy ex-girlfriends, painful silences, almost breaking up, and an almost tragedy involving pillows and a reckless cyclist. Exactly. And still, we survived. We survived and got better." He looked at her, a different sparkle in his eyes. "So maybe it's time to do this right." Emily raised an eyebrow. "Do what?" "Life. With you. All in. With a contract, witnesses, cake, and dramatic vows." "Ryan Cooper, are you asking me to marry you?" He got up, went to the living room, came back pushing a pink kid's bike with training wheels and a basket. "I was going to do this in style, with a fancy dinner and violin, but I thought this would be more us." "This is," she started laughing. A bicycle? Not just any bicycle, the bicycle of a new beginning. He opened the basket. Inside was a velvet box. Emily put her hand over her mouth, already laughing with tears in her eyes. Ryan knelt down, still wearing the glitter apron. Emily Parker, since the day you lost your skirt because of me, my life's been off balance, and I realized I didn't want any routine where you weren't there. Will you marry me and keep laughing at my bad ideas for the rest of our lives? She didn't answer immediately. She just stood there, trying to hold back both the tears and the laughter at the same time. I accept. Of course I accept, you crazy guy. Ryan slid the ring on her finger, and they both fell into an embrace. Straight into the pancakes. The wedding was set for 6 months later. Claire took on the role of head maid of the chaotic and joyful planning. I demand 3 things, she declared at the first planning meeting. A fabulous dress, a dramatic bouquet, and no chance of boredom. Can we get married on a spinning stage? Ryan suggested. Only if you're dressed as a chef with glitter, Emily replied. The big day arrived with sunshine, a clear sky, and more chaos than any normal ceremony could handle. To start, the decorator mixed up the instructions and decorated the hall with bicycles hanging from the ceiling. Is this artistic? Emily's mom asked, her eyes wide. It's symbolic, Claire answered before texting the group. Plan B, the bicycles are now part of the theme. Pretend it was intentional. Emily got stuck in the zipper of her dress 10 minutes before walking in. Claire had to use pliers to get it undone. It's all good, she said, sweating. This is normal. Every bride almost rips her dress from nerves. I'm not nervous, Emily lied, shaking all the way down to her lashes. Outside, Ryan waited at the altar, with the wrong left shoe. They swapped shoes in the dressing room. He only noticed when he tried to walk straight and waddled like a penguin, but none of that mattered when the music started. And Emily appeared. No tripping, no torn skirt, no hesitation. Ryan looked at her like time had stopped. Claire, standing nearby, whispered, "He looks like a CEO seeing the emotional profit of his life double." The ceremony was led by a friend of the couple, who wasn't a priest or a judge, but gave such an awkward and charismatic speech that half the guests were crying from laughter. We're here to unite 2 people who have gone through more accidents, stumbles, and emotional GPS errors than any couple I know, but who decided still to stick together. This, my friends, is what I call success. When it was time for the vows, Emily took the microphone. Ryan Cooper. I promise not to yank your tie during meetings anymore. Unless you deserve it. I promise to patiently listen to your ridiculous ideas and laugh even when they're only half funny. I promise to be your partner on the good days, your rock on the bad days, and your fan on every other day. And, most of all, I promise to never forget the day everything started, with a skirt flying in the middle of the street. Ryan wiped a tear away and took the microphone. Emily Parker. I promise to never ride a bike toward you again, unless it's to run away together from a boring corporate event. I promise to take care of you on your chaotic days, respect you on your tough days, and admire you every other day. And I promise, even after 50 years, to still laugh with you about our first mistakes. And thank God, every day, that they happened. When the I do's were said, the guests cheered, threw biodegradable confetti, and Claire almost passed out from emotion. At the party, the first dance wasn't a waltz, it was an impromptu choreography to a pop song from the 2000s, which ended with Ryan nearly falling. And Emily saving the moment with a laugh and a kiss. The pink bike from the proposal stayed at the entrance of the party, decorated with flowers and a sign hanging on it. Here started the most beautiful disaster of our lives. The guests took pictures, made jokes, and everyone left with party favors. Mini bicycles with fabric skirts attached to the wheels. Claire, holding the microphone, made the final toast. Today we celebrate not just love, but the improbable. The comic. The things that go wrong until they go right. And, in the end, that's what makes everything so perfect. Later, in the hotel room where they spent their wedding night, Emily lay beside Ryan, both still with glitter in their hair and goofy smiles on their faces. Do you think we'll keep laughing like this forever? She asked, staring at the ceiling. As long as it's up to me, yes. But I'll probably keep tripping over furniture, forgetting birthdays, and making coffee too strong. And I'll probably keep complaining about all of it, dramatizing and threatening to hide your bike forever. Perfect, he said. Sounds like a good life plan. And then, before turning off the lights, Ryan pulled her closer and whispered, You know, for everything that went wrong, I'm thankful. Why? Because everything that went wrong brought me here. With you. And that is my happy ending. Emily smiled, resting her head on his chest. Then let the mess of life come. Together. What did you think of Emily and Ryan's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. On a scale of 0 to 10, what rating would you give it? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to stay updated on all our stories. And feel free to check out more touching stories by clicking here on the final screen.